You ever feel like beneath all the noise of modern life, there's a deeper, older story, kind of like a spiritual blueprint that connects us all, not just to each other, but way back to the ancient world? Well, today, that's exactly what we're digging into. This idea of a universal sacred inheritance that was systematically buried, but was never, ever destroyed. Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, what if, across every continent for thousands of years, our ancestors all stumbled upon the same doorways to the divine? What if they developed a shared set of spiritual technologies that were so powerful, so effective, that the world's great religions had to deliberately, overwrite them? That's the huge mystery we're unlocking today.
So to start, we really have to get our heads around how ancient people saw the world. For them, it wasn't just this flat material place we see now. No, they felt this universal grammar of the soul, a shared human impulse that pulled them towards something way, way bigger.
And this is such a fascinating way to frame their entire world. The scholar Mircea Eliade, he explained that for these ancient cultures, life was basically structured around these two poles. You had the profane, that's the ordinary world of daily chores, just getting by. But then there was the sacred, an incredible world of immense power, of awe, a place where you could literally connect with the source of creation itself. So the goal of life wasn't just to exist in the mundane, it was all about finding ways to break through into the sacred. And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. People everywhere found similar ways to do this. We're talking the Amazon, ancient Egypt, the Andes. It's not like they were copying each other's notes. They were all tapping into the same fundamental human intuition, a kind of shared spiritual blueprint for how to connect with that deeper reality.
So what did these technologies actually look like? Well, anthropologist Michael Harner, he identified what he called core shamanism, using things like drumming and trance to journey to other worlds, and found it was a nearly universal practice. David Elkington showed how cultures use sacred sound as a literal science of consciousness. And then you have scholars like Anthony Avani and John Anthony West, who proved how temples and pyramids were built to perfectly mirror the heavens, using celestial alignment and sacred geometry to harmonize our world with the cosmic one. This wasn't primitive superstition, not at all. This was a profound science of the soul.
But this vibrant, incredibly diverse spiritual world, it was about to face a massive threat. As monotheistic religions started to rise, they didn't just ignore these ancient ways. Oh no, they launched a systematic campaign to erase them, a process we can call the Great Sacred Overwriting.
Demonization was one of their most effective tactics. See, the old gods weren't just dismissed as fake, they were rebranded as pure evil. Take Pan, the god of nature and the wild. He wasn't forgotten. His goat-like features were literally lifted and grafted onto the image of the Christian devil. It's a brilliant, if terrifying, strategy. It creates a sharp boundary. Your ancestors' gods aren't just wrong. They are demonic forces trying to drag you to hell.
And this wasn't just some war of ideas. It was backed by the full force of the state. Starting in the 4th century, Roman emperors issued edicts that systematically dismantled the old world. Temples were shut down. Ancient libraries, like the one at the incredible Serapeum in Alexandria, were destroyed. But then, there was a shift in strategy. Pope Gregory the Great realized something crucial. It's actually better to co-opt a sacred site than to destroy it. Cleanse it, put a cross on it, and you capture all of its lingering power for yourself.
And this became the central playbook for conquest, a process of sacred overwriting. You find the place a people holds most holy, the very center of their universe, and you build your church, your mosque, right on top of it. It's a physical declaration that your God has defeated theirs.
And you will not find a more brutal or more visible example of this strategy than at Cholula in Mexico. In 1519, Hernán Cortés shows up at this revered city, which was a major center for the worship of the god Quetzalcoatl. On the pretext of a rumored ambush, he gathers the city's leaders and warriors in the main plaza and just unleashes a horrific massacre. Now, sources vary, but even the most conservative estimates suggest a slaughter of just staggering proportions. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, were killed in a matter of hours. This wasn't a battle. This was an act of pure terror, designed to completely break the spiritual and political heart of the people. And then came the final act of the overwriting. On the very top of the Great Pyramid of Cholula, the largest pyramid in the world, by the way, the Spanish built a church. a temple to the feathered serpent god became the site of a church to the Virgin Mary. It is the ultimate symbol of conquest, a cross planted directly in the heart of a sacred mountain.
But here's the thing. This story isn't just about destruction. Because that buried light, that ancient sacred blueprint, it was never truly put out. It simply went underground. And this is the crucial part. The people didn't forget. They developed this brilliant strategy of spiritual survival called syncretism. They learned to hide their old gods in plain sight, giving them new masks, new names, often from right inside the Christian pantheon itself. The most famous example of this has to be the Virgin of Guadalupe. So the story goes, in 1531, she appeared to an indigenous man on Tepeyac Hill. But Tepeyac was already a sacred site, home to the Aztec mother goddess Tonantzin. So for the indigenous people, this dark-skinned virgin, she was their goddess returned. They could openly worship her, and in doing so, keep their ancient devotion to Tonantzin alive, right under the noses of the Spanish friars. It's genius.
And this wasn't just happening in the Americas. The exact same pattern unfolded in Europe centuries earlier. Brigid was this powerful Celtic goddess of fire, healing, and creativity. She was just too beloved to be turned into a demon, so the church did the next best thing. They absorbed her. She became Saint Brigid of Kildare, one of Ireland's patron saints, and she kept all of her old attributes: her sacred fire, her connection to healing wells, her patronage of poets. The name changed, but the sacred energy, it stayed right there.
The poet Robert Graves just captured this perfectly. He said, "Demons and bogies are invariably the reduced gods of priests of a superseded religion. The old gods never really die. When a new religion takes over, they're either demoted to demons or promoted to saints. But either way, they persist. They're hiding in the shadows of our stories and our rituals, just waiting." Which brings us right up to today. Because in our time, that buried light is not hiding anymore. All across the world, these ancient ways are re-emerging, they're being reclaimed, and they're being adapted for the modern world. I mean, we see it in the rise of neo-paganism, which is all about reclaiming earth-based European traditions and the idea of a sacred feminine. We see it in the explosion of sound healing, where quartz crystal bowls and chanting are used to alter consciousness. That's a modern echo of that ancient science of resonance. And most powerfully, we see it in indigenous-led movements who are fighting to reclaim their sacred lands, their languages, and their ceremonies.
And this work is incredibly practical and hands-on. As the scholar Linda Toohey-Weiss-Smith lays it out, it's about decolonizing the sacred. It starts with revitalizing languages, because the words themselves actually hold the entire worldview. It means protecting land not as a resource, but as a living relative. And it means activating the old stories through ceremony, bringing them off the page and back into the breathing world.
This quote from Aboriginal leader Gadrian Hussein, it's just such a profound legal and spiritual statement. What he's saying is that the sacred law of the land, the songlines, the trees, the water, it all precedes any modern political contract. That relationship with country is the first and most fundamental law, and all other human laws have to align with it.
So why does the sacred survive all of this? Why is it so indestructible? Well, as the scholar Vine Deloria Jr. explained, it's rooted in geography. You can build a church on a mountain, but the mountain is still there. As Michael Harner argued, the core practices actually work. Drumming really does alter your consciousness. As Brian Burkhart points out, it's endlessly adaptive, always creating new forms from old roots. And as Linda Toohey-Weiss-Smith shows us, it's woven into our very bodies through memory, language, and ritual. And ultimately, I think this is the real reason. The sacred isn't just an idea you can burn in a book or a statue you can smash. It's a living relationship with the land, with the cosmos, with our ancestors, and with ourselves. You can try to suppress that relationship, but you can never, ever truly destroy it. It will always find a way back.
So the question for you is, now that you can see this pattern of burial and reemergence, where do you see this buried light shining through in your own world? Maybe in a local festival, a healing practice you've heard of, a fight to protect a piece of land? Once you start looking for it, you'll start to see it everywhere.